So I've been thinking about making this video for a while, and I was really wondering, like, how much effort should I put into it? I know that's a bad thing to say as a YouTuber. Like, should I really like research and go through everything to expose Ethan Klein allegedly not being as against extremism as he would say, or should I just like play the stuff I know? And I'm gonna go for that because there's other things I want to focus like a more structured video on. But yeah, basically, when I made a video about Ethan Klein's crusade against Hasan for being like some sort of rabid anti-Semite, one thing that caught my eye and I found particularly hilarious, obviously someone who's a bit older, been watching YouTube for a long time, been a YouTuber myself since 2017, Ethan Klein said he has always been fighting extremism online, right? So this guy has been a crusader against extremism, no matter if it's left wing or right wing, he's just against it. And he's been like our strongest soldier against especially like right wing extremism. So when he has heat for the left, that's just him being like a real great fighter against radical elements on both sides. So I have the post here, right? And this is just so insane. So he was talking about, you know, Hasan just being an extremist. And he said, when I made the show with Hasan, I genuinely thought he was just a social democrat progressive like me. I mean, even you saying that about yourself is really funny. I had no idea his politics were so radical. That's my fault. 90% of the time he's shitting on Republicans, and that's what I had seen, but his politics are like a Trojan horse, a veneer of reasonability with extremely radical views hidden within. The cracks began to appear when we started talking about Ukraine, Taiwan, and Tibet. Once I noticed, it all began to fall apart. I'd be interested to hear like your problems with what he said about Tibet. I hold myself accountable for anyone from my audience that was radicalized by him, which is why I'm doing what I can to undo the damage. I've come to see Hasan as MAGA for the left, spinning alternate realities to fit the dogmatic view of the world. As someone who's been fighting extremism for many years, absolute fucking lie and just so funny. Funniest thing he's probably ever said. I cannot look the other way when it comes from my side of the aisle. Absolutely insane. He thinks Hasan is like some, you know, far left extremists. But let's just start with what he went on to say recently. Him and Hila Klein praised Yoav Gallant, right? And Ethan said, well, I don't know much about him, before going on to then defend him calling Palestinians animals as he started to justify the invasion of Gaza, right?
Him and Bibi like talk a lot, and Bibi's become a lot like Trump.
Yeah, Bibi's his guy. They're like homies. Bibi's celebrating last night.
Just the other day, Bibi fired a really good guy that a lot of people are pissed about, and he fired him because they had a disagreement, and that's like so Trump coded.
Well, he was like a moderating voice in the war room.
Yeah.
And he got rid of him, or at least a more moderate voice. I don't know anything about the guy. Just recognize his picture. He looked mean. I thought he was mean just because he looked mean.
No, it's not.
So he goes on to defend not only his wife for saying this, but defend some of the horrible things Gallant has said, while saying that Hasan is purity testing people who might be secular and still support Zionism, right? If they are like you, then yeah, he should be purity testing anyone who thinks like this. So he says, Hila doesn't know a lot about politics, but she knows that Gallant is opposed to Netanyahu and wants to end the war. That's why she said he's a good guy. He wants to end the war. She's right that it's objectively bad that he got fired. I mean, I wouldn't say that. And then a quote where Gallant called Palestinians human animals and saying there will be no electricity, food or fuel, which is actually like a war crime. Like he's saying, I'm going to do war crimes. This is on October 8th. Ethan defends this saying, this quote is from the 8th and it's a direct response to October 7th. I think it's reasonable assumption that he was talking about the Hamas militants that killed civilians. Either way, this is the guy in his war cabinet that wanted to end the war, and he was just fired. If you care about war ending, then you agree with Hila. Already, that one thing is more extreme than anything Hasan has ever said. You're literally supporting a war criminal and supporting the rhetoric of a war criminal. Your wife then says a war criminal is a good guy, you're saying he's a moderating voice, and then you double down on that. This is a war criminal. It's like you telling me that Rommel was a good guy in Nazi Germany and was some sort of moderate. Even if he was a moderate, by their standards, he's still a Nazi, right? So you even saying that makes you more extreme than Hasan, so that's absolutely hilarious. But Ethan Klein seems to like have his brain like scrambled. Does he not remember his whole history? He has been like an edgy comedian for a long, long time. Now, if you guys don't remember this, there are multiple podcasts of Ethan Klein sitting around with iDubbbz and other people just saying slurs like the N-word and stuff, right? I don't think anyone who fights extremism on both sides is sitting around shouting the N-word on their own podcast. But that is just one thing. So Ethan Klein probably thinks he's been fighting extremism because this is his stance on Black Lives Matter back in like 2015, 2016, right? And can I remind people, this man is like middle-aged now. So when I'm showing you older clips from like 8 years ago, this isn't like a 21-year-old or something or a 19-year-old. This is like a nearly 40-year-old man saying this stuff. Again, a guy who thinks Hasan is so radical. He's the arbiter of what's extreme, despite him and his wife calling a legit war criminal some sort of moderate.
Yesterday we made the mistake of almost talking about politics, and we basically triggered so many people. I was actually shocked. This time we spoke about the Black Lives Matter and a Joey Salads experiment, but when it's something as politically charged as a race and Black Lives Matter, it's really f***ed up. We never expressed an opinion, we never expressed support for Black Lives Matter, yet if you look at the comments, they are insane. We made a video making fun of crazy feminists, and all the people on the left were coming and calling us Trump supporters, that we were a haven for the alt-right, and we're unsubbing and getting triggered. And here's my point. Each side hates each other so much that they're so clouded by hate and judgment that nobody listens. In both of those videos, we never even expressed any opinion about either side. This show is about rational thought. It's about cutting through the bull, whether you're on the left or the right. This is not a politically affiliated show, and it never has been. We're about cutting through the bullshit. In this climate, it's like, you can't say anything anymore. Each side, the left and right, see each other as the devil, not as like human beings with compassion and people who are worth listening to and trying to understand. Because Joey Salads faked an experiment, and they couldn't even handle the thought of us not absolutely blasting Black Lives Matter. We didn't say a word of support. But the fact that we didn't blast them was enough for them to unsub, downvote the video. You're welcome to hate Black Lives Matter. I don't like a lot of the shit they do either. But you want to base your beliefs on a fake social experiment? At least if you want to hate Black Lives Matter, which is perfectly fine. God bless you. Do it on something real. Okay? Go find a real reason.
So can I just remember the words Ethan Klein used? I have been fighting extremism for many years. Here is him basically trying to be a centrist between Black Lives Matter and racists, and basically saying, I don't have an opinion either way. I'm the centrist in this, and Black Lives Matter, you know, I have problems with them as well. Is Black Lives Matter back then, were they considered extremists? I mean, I guess they were if you were right wing. But yeah, that's where he's coming at it from. Like, I am the center, both sides are bad. And that's back in 2016. Again, fighting extremism for many, many years. So he also had this podcast that seemed to love platforming mostly right-wing people if they got political. He had Jordan Peterson on twice, and of course they were like shitting on the left. Now, I would always have considered Jordan Peterson an extreme voice. People who didn't back in the day were just deluding themselves. I've made videos, I think like one of my first controversial videos I made in 2017 calling Jordan Peterson like a legit misogynist, right? So he's always been more extreme in his views, and even though he used to be able to phrase it a bit better, like what he was talking about, I would always say he was more extreme than Hasan, at the very least. So if you've got a problem with Hasan now, you'd think you'd always have a problem with Jordan Peterson, not getting him on your podcast to agree with him loads. To be fair, back in 2017, I would definitely say Ethan Klein could have changed by then. But if you're making the point you have fought extremism for many, many years, then I'm using your own standards. Many, many years. I consider many, many years to be like, let's say 7 years. Let's use that metric, right? But here's an even worse one, right? Ethan Klein was big friends of JonTron back in the day. They used to work for him, or Hilo Klein used to work for him. Now, of course, the only good thing Destiny ever did on the internet was debate JonTron, where he just went like mask off, like full fascist, like not even trying to dog whistle really, literally just saying the most like unhinged far right stuff. But because the internet was different back then, everyone just acted like it wasn't a big deal, but this guy just outed himself as like a legit 4chan like poll user, basically.
Support all of the poor people, because poor whites commit a lot of crime too, disproportionately compared to wealthier whites.
That's just not true. But okay,
Wait,
you can
hold on.
say that if you want to.
Wait. You don't think that
Well,
poverty,
yeah, of course. Well, yes. In relative
terms,
to
yes.
in relative to wealthy whites, yes.
Sure.
You're correct.
Okay, so do you think that poor blacks probably commit more crime relative to wealthier black people?
They do. Wealthy blacks also commit more crime than poor whites. That's a fact.
Wait, what?
Yeah, look it up.
Where is these movements of Mexicans trying to get, Texas to go back to Mexico? What?
When you have these illegals coming up and getting so bold to say, try deporting me, Trump, people see themselves, I'm assuming, as Mexican. I don't know that they come here and the soil magically turns them into Thomas Jefferson's direct descendant. So why is it that white people, especially white Americans, resisting their own displacement is racist?
Because you're talking about displacement.
But don't worry. Once he did this, Ethan Klein, the extremism fighter, gave him a platform on his podcast where they had like a nice friendly chat, and they even talked about this. They even talked about him going full mask off fascist. And many years extremism fighter who praises war criminals, what did he have to say about this?
I'm sure people want to know about this, so I just get it out of the way. Because I haven't talked about it since then, for good reason. I don't really want to get into this. It's a minefield of sorts. I'm not going to go back and nitpick everything I said and qualify it or anything. All I'm going to say is that, yeah, in that moment, I was, going into something that I needed a lot more time to prep for. I just went in guns blazing because you get a little arrogant sometimes, I guess. You think, like, I'm going to take this guy to task. But, obviously I understand, like, why people had the reaction that they did. So, I felt bad about the incident in a sense. But, like, I also just feel bad that we can't talk about these things without witch hunting each other.
Right.
Because, that's basically my full statement.
Okay. Mm-hmm. I mean, do you feel like you said some things that you regret?
Yeah, I could have phrased a lot of that better.
Well, let me just say for the record, like, that I disagree with a lot of the stuff you said, but I still think, like, if you genuinely feel a certain way, or some people genuinely feel a certain way, the correct way to deal with it is not to, like, prevent them from saying it.
Yeah, we've been seeing a lot of that.
We should be able to talk about it. Like, even if I strongly disagree, but I think that we should still be able to talk about it. I mean, I don't know. It's so tricky. Like,
it's tricky. By the way,
is it an impossible task for someone as a fan of, if you say something they really disagree with, is it an impossible task for them to be like, I'm trying to get in the mind, I really disagree with that. I hate what he said, but I still love him as a person and as an entertainer. I guess that's a timeless question.
I mean, I don't think it's a stretch to say the current social climate's insane.
Yeah, no, for sure.
And the only way we'll ever get past it is just talking about stuff.
I'm not defending what you said. I just state, again, for the record, I disagree with a lot of the you said, okay. But that's fine. Like,
but
it's
we
okay.
can still be friends.
Yeah, that's part of the problem is that people were like, I can't believe that you're still friends with John. And I'm like, why? He's the same person. Like, I love him. He's a good friend of mine. Like, we can talk about this stuff amongst each other and try to find a common ground, right? Yeah. Like, it's way better to have a conversation and try to understand each other. Otherwise, you just end up with these segregated groups, people who hate each other. Yeah. Like, you really expect me to just be like, you said something that I disagree with and I can't talk to you anymore. Like, how sick is that?
Yeah, I agree.
So just for context there, right? JonTron went full mask off Nazi. Ethan Klein says, I disagree. We can still be friends. We can still talk about these things. I'm not going to get rid of you because you were an extremist, right? Hasan never said anything that extreme. Never, ever said anything that extreme. And you burn your entire relationship with him and then started a massive campaign to try and end his streaming career because you said he was extreme. Why the double standard? Could it be that you're the one with more extreme opinions? You support war criminals. You support Israel. You support the state of settler colonialism and apartheid. So much so you went there and decided you wanted to become part of it. You wanted to become a citizen. I am saying that is more extreme than anything Hasan has said. And me and Hasan, of course, we share a lot of beliefs. Obviously, I'm not in his mind. I don't know, everything he said. He said some crazy shit as well. But also, Ethan Klein, you've said some crazy shit. What did you say about Aaron Bushnell straight after he died in a private little stream that you thought no one would see? What did you say about Ben Shapiro? I hate Ben Shapiro. What you said was fucking insane. And people would say that's extreme. So we've got you praising war criminals, that thing you said about Ben Shapiro. Then we have you also downplaying an actual fascist coming on your podcast, having loads of fascists on your podcast, like fascist adjacent people like Jordan Peterson, and glazing him. And again, by your own standard, if you said, I used to be more like controversial, right wing, all that stuff, and I decided that is bad for the internet, so I've decided in recent years I'm going to change and fight extremism, that would be one thing. You saying you are the extremism fighter for many, many years is absolutely, it's fucking bullshit, and you've normalized so much of this. If you're having Jordan Peterson on your podcast followed up by JonTron after he's outed himself as a fascist, and you're normalizing all their views, you've done way more damage to the internet culture than someone like Hasan has. And again, this is all based around one issue. You're now shitting on him for Ukraine, Taiwan, Tibet. You had no problem with that shit. It's because he's gone against Israel, now you care. You bring on people on your podcast who have no problem going to Israel and palling around with Zionist extremists. People who did half a sociology degree and read Wikipedia. They're the experts because they believe what you say, but Hasan is a left-wing extremist, and he's basically like the left-wing version of Donald Trump or something, right? Absolutely insane. And the fact that you think you have any moral high ground on extremism, building your career on edgy humor, building your career on racism against black people, which included saying the N-word loads, building your career on platforming some of the most toxic people on the internet and downplaying how bad they were, building your career on just being like some edgelord comedian who said way more extreme things than most people on the internet, only to turn around and start calling Hasan an extremist because he criticizes Israel, while you're praising some of the architects of what happened in Gaza as moderates. If you think Yoav Gallant is a moderating voice and what he said on October 8th wasn't bad, what does that say about your own politics? You're not some sort of moderate. You're not some person who has any high ground on morality and politics. You're basically someone who's had their brain broken and has been spending too much time talking to Destiny fans and Destiny because people are challenging your ideology where, yes, you joined the Israeli state voluntarily because you like what you saw. And now people are calling you out for that, and you can't handle it because deep down I think you know, yeah, Israel as a construct is a bad thing. You're bad for becoming a citizen of Israel by choice, even though you were born in America. And I guess now you decided just to double down because you can't take any criticism. And the only people you'll get in your podcast to talk about this are people who you know will agree with you. So I thought I'd just make this video because I always thought it was hilarious. And this thing caught my eye, especially him thinking he's ever fought extremism. You have done nothing but normalize extreme voices, and you've said more extreme things than most people. You have no moral high ground. Even if Hasan was some crazy radical Maoist, you have no high ground on him at all. So that's it for the video. Let me know what you guys think, and thank you for watching.